Hi, Phyllis here from southernfrugal.com. Today I'm going to make some dinner rolls, and they're really a very rich dinner roll, and we're going to use them for the holidays when we have company, and because they freeze very well. You just take them out of the freezer, pop them in the oven, let them warm up a little bit, and it's like you just made them. So we're going to make 3 pans of dinner rolls, and they're going to be a very rich dinner roll. Alright, here's what you'll need. Now, I am trying out the White Lily bread flour. I have not seen this on the market before. I don't know how long it's been available, but anyway, in our new buy low, I found it, so I'm definitely going to try it. Alright, so you'll need 5½ cups of bread flour or all-purpose flour. This is a 4-cup measuring cup, but I've got 5 1/4 cups in there. You'll need 1 cup of whole milk. Now, I've got this in a 2-cup measure because I'm going to scald it in the microwave. The way you do that is put it in there on high for about a minute, maybe a minute and a half, depending on your microwave, just until it barely starts bubbling right around the edges, and then it'll be scalded. And what you're scalding it to kill the enzymes, because otherwise the enzymes are going to try to kill the yeast. So that's why you scald the milk. I use 2 heaping teaspoons of yeast. Now, this is not rapid rise yeast. This is some I get from King Arthur Flour. I'll order it in bulk, and that way I get it a lot cheaper. But if you're using yeast, in those little packets, you'd need 2 packs of the yeast. 1/2 cup of water, and you want the water at 110 to 115 degrees. 1/4 of a cup of butter, and this would just be 4 tablespoons or 1/4 cup. 1/4 cup of just regular plain sugar. 2 whole eggs, 1 teaspoon of just salt. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and scald my milk in the microwave, warm up my water to 110 to 115 degrees, and I've got my heating pad over here, and I'm letting my bowl somewhat get warm. Alright, so once I get this ready to mix together, we'll be back. Okay, the milk is scalded. I don't know if y'all can see that. There's a little skim on the top of it. Now, this milk was very cold, and in my microwave it took 1 minute and 45 seconds. Alright, so we're going to put the butter in the milk and really try to cool it down a little bit, because you want your milk mixture to be at, just lukewarm. You don't want it hot, because it's going to kill the yeast. So, to this mixture, I've added the butter. I'm going to go ahead and put in 1 teaspoon of salt and 1/4 cup of sugar. Just going to dump that all in together. And just keep kind of stirring that around and let that butter melt. That'll help cool it off. But you do want to wait to mix everything up until this mixture gets lukewarm. You do not want it hot. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do, we've got our water to 110 degrees. I'm going to go ahead and add the yeast into that. Just use the same spoon to get that yeast dissolved in that water. I'm just stirring it, and just keep stirring it until it dissolves. Now, I don't use the active dry yeast. The rapid rise active dry yeast, just because I find that it doesn't make these recipes. Most of them come, from the 1950s and 60s. It just doesn't do as well with the rapid rise yeast. So I try to use just the regular yeast. Alright, got that pretty well dissolved, somewhat. Alright, we're going to let this cool to lukewarm, and we'll be back. Alright, we are back, and I wanted to show you this little trick I use. in order to cool this mixture down faster, I just sit it down in a little bowl of cold water. And I also use a meat thermometer to just make sure that my temperature is right, because if it's too hot, it's going to kill the yeast. So, all right, we're ready to get started now. My mixture's at the right temperature now. My yeast is dissolved. Now, I didn't put any sugar in this, so it's not foaming all up, but it is foaming just a little bit. Can you see that? Just a little bit. Also, the eggs, I beat those up pretty good. My bowl is warm because I've had it on the heating pad. Now, it's not hot, it's just barely warm. Get that out of the way. All right, so we're ready to start mixing this up. So the first thing I'm going to do is pour in my milk, butter, salt, and sugar mixture. And to that, I'm going to go ahead and add my yeast. Now, my eggs have been sitting out, so they're more at room temperature also now. So I'm going to go ahead and add those in. All right. So now we're ready to add in the flour. Now, when you're measuring to make bread, almost every recipe doesn't call for sifted flour. You're just supposed to take it out of the bag as it is and measure it that way. Unlike when you're making cakes, you always want to sift the flour and then measure it. So this is different. Now, we want the gluten to develop in the flour. So I've added about 2 cups of flour. And now I'm going to use my electric mixer and just beat it 2 or 3 minutes to get it really mixed up, and so that gluten will develop in the flour. All right, so we'll be back. All right, we have mixed our dough up with the mixer for a couple of minutes, gotten it all smooth and hoping to develop some of the gluten in the flour. And so now we're ready to add more flour. Now, if you want old-fashioned type rolls like your grandmother used to make, there really isn't any shortcut. You kind of have to do it this way. All right, so we're going to add maybe another 1.5 cups, 2 cups of flour, and just go ahead and put your hands right down in it. Now, I've put mine down in the sink because the sink is lower and it makes it a lot easier to knead when it's at a lower place than up on my countertops. In fact, I hardly ever knead anything on my countertops because they're higher. All right, more flour in. Now we're going to end up with a soft dough. That's what we're looking for. But we are going to have to knead it. So to start with, you want to just get as much of that flour in as you can. And you want to have your bag of flour handy because you might need more. You just never can tell about flour on the exact measurements. Now, we haven't started kneading yet because the first thing we have to do is get it to come up into a ball. And it's pretty well getting there pretty fast. About ready to start kneading now. Let me get this off my hands. Now, the other thing that doing it by hand does that you just can't replicate with the machine or even using rapid rise yeast is the warmth of your hands, help the dough to rise and come together. All right, now we've almost used all of our flour. We've just got maybe 1/2 cup left. So we're going to sprinkle some in and see if we can start kneading this. Now, kneading is just simply stretching out the flour to develop the gluten. And of course, the gluten in the flour is what makes those little air bubbles. And that's what makes your bread nice and soft and delicious. All right, so we're going to need to knead this for about 8 to 10 minutes. So So kneading it is just bringing it around and pushing it down. Bringing it around and pushing it down. And you know, it doesn't really matter how you do it as long as you stretch it, because when you're bringing it over and mashing it down, you're stretching this on the bottom. Each time you do that, you're also incorporating some air into it. And you can do it with both hands, one hand, do it on a flat surface. I like to do mine in a bowl, just because it keeps it together a little more and doesn't make such a big mess. Alright, so we've got a soft dough now. Now we're going to knead this till it kind of looks like a rubber ball. So once I'm through kneading it, we'll be back. Okay, we have completed kneading our dough, and now it kind of looks like a rubber ball. The texture of it. Let me show it to you. See how smooth? Alright, now I'm going to wash my bowl out and put a little oil in it, but while I'm washing the bowl, I'm going to sit my dough right over on this little saran wrap here. It's got a little flour on it. And I'm going to get my hands all cleaned, and we'll be back. Okay, we got our bowl all cleaned out and dry, and I'm going to do this a little bit different. I'm going to add some Crisco to grease the bowl rather than using oil. And the bowl is a little warm, so that definitely helps. Now we want to put this in a warm place to rise, and that should take 30 to 45 minutes, depending on the temperature, really. Alright, so we've got our bowl all greased now. Take up our dough, get that little flour off of it. See how smooth it is? Can y'all see that? Alright. I'm just going to pinch that bottom together a little bit. Take it and put it in the bowl and kind of roll it around a little bit, because what you're doing is greasing that top so it won't stick to the saran wrap. Alright. Now, we're just going to take some saran wrap, put it over the top of this. You could also just use a dish towel. You just want to keep it from getting any draft. Now I'm going to put it over on that. This is just a regular heating pad, and I've actually got it on high. Got a little metal trivet sitting there, and put a pot holder on top of it, because that metal will take the heat up into the bowl, so I don't want it to get too hot. So I'm going to put that right there. We're going to let it rise 30 to 45 minutes, and we'll be back. I'll show you how we put this together. Okay, our dough has doubled in bulk. Now it did take about 45 minutes. It was a little cooler in here today. Now, how do you know when it's ready? When you poke your finger into it and it doesn't come back out. That's how you know it's ready. Alright, so we're ready to dump this out. And what we want to do is divide it into 3 equal sections, or as much as you can. So I just use my scissors. Just cut it like that. Actually, that one looks a little bigger. Cut some off with that. Some off with that. Alright, so we're going to put 2 of them back in the bowl. Actually, this one is smaller. Sorry, I didn't have the camera down there. I cut this into 3 sections. Try to get it in equal sections. So that feels about right. Alright, now we're going to make this kind of in a loaf. And then we're going to divide this into 9 sections. Alright, let me see if I can get that right. Now, If your rolls are not the same size, that tells everybody that they're homemade. All right, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I actually got mine in 10, so let me see what I can do about that. Add a little into that one and a little into that one. All right. Now I have greased 3 cake pans because this is going to actually make 27 rolls. So you want to form each section into a little round ball. Just kind of pinch them together on the bottom, make the top rounded, and just place them in your pan. Like that. Let me see if I can go ahead and do all of these really quick. And these are just rolls that could work well for a holiday or really any meal. And they freeze super, super well. You can definitely make them ahead. See, just make yourself a little ball. Spread them out in the pan. See? Because the bottom of them's not going to really show. So you can just sort of pinch them together there. Make yourself a little ball. Alright, we got 2 more to do. It's very pliable now that it's risen. Alright, almost through with this group. One in the middle. There you go. Now I'm going to put these in the oven and put a pan of hot water in there with them so they don't get chilled or anything. All right, wait a minute. Got one more. Almost forgot this one. Position those a little better in my pan. Actually put 2 in the middle there. That'll work. Okay, I'm going to do the other 2 pans and we'll be back. Alright, we've got all 3 pans now formed into little balls, and I am heating some water in that 4-cup measuring cup, and that's going to go in the oven while these rise. But first you want to just lightly brush the top with some slightly melted butter. Just very lightly. Brush each roll. That way you'll give them a nice brown top. And this also helps to protect the yeast a little bit so they don't get chilled, because you want to be definitely mindful of that. You don't want them to get chilled. Alright. Now this was the first ones I did, and you see they've already started rising. Alright, let's get these brushed, and we're going to put those in the oven because they definitely will not get chilled in the oven. Now of course the oven's not on. I'm just going to set that hot water in there to give the yeast a good temperature to rise in. Alright, just lightly brush them with the butter. Alright, I think that's all of them. I use up all my butter. Alright, we're ready to put these in the oven so they can rise up, and then after that we're going to cook them. Alright, so we're going to go over to the oven now. Let me get situated and we'll come back and see what they look like in the oven. Okay, here they are in the oven. I heated this 4-cup Pyrex measuring cup up in the microwave So this water is good and hot, and I'm going to leave the light on in there, which will add additional heat. We're going to let these rise until they're doubled in bulk, and they'll all kind of come together then. All right, when that happens, we'll be back. Okay, we are ready to bake these rolls. They've doubled in bulk, and they've kind of all come together very nicely. And I've taken the water out. It actually is still warm. See the condensation on the side of the oven, which is fine, because yeast love to rise in a moist place, warm, moist. That's what they like. All right, so what we're going to do now is cut the oven on now, rather than preheat it and then put them in. That'll give them a chance to rise just a little bit more before the heat from the oven kills the yeast. So we're going to bake these at 375 for about 30 minutes, starting with a cold oven, or in this case it's just slightly warm. All right, so when these get done, we'll be back. 375 degrees for 30 minutes, starting out with them in the oven and then cut the oven on. All right, we'll be back. Okay, here are the rolls all done. Now the ones on the bottom rack got just a little bit more brown on the bottom, but that's okay because I like brown on the bottom. Those were cooked on the top rack. Anyway, I'm going to take one of these out, put some butter in it, and give it a taste. We'll be right back. Okay, I put some butter in one of the rolls, but they're way too hot to even taste. Let that butter melt. I want to show you the bottom. Now these were cooked on the bottom rack. These right here were cooked on the top rack. But anyway, these are those super thick cake pans, and they cook wonderful. All right, I hope y'all will try these. They're very festive for a holiday. And you can see how large they are, so one is certainly enough for a person. Some people might want two, but see how tall they rise up? And part of that is because I start them out in a cold oven. So these actually cooked for 28 minutes in my oven. All right, we will see y'all next time.